The 7th of April, 1899, Volume 2. Louisa refreshes Jesus. He says to her, I want to make of you an object of my satisfaction. I continue in the same state, but this morning especially it was most bitter for me. I had almost lost the hope that Jesus would come. Oh, how many tears I had to shed. It was the very last hour and Jesus was still not coming. Oh, what to do? My heart was in such a strong pain and continuous throbbing, but so strong that I felt a mortal agony. In my interior, I said to him, my good Jesus, don't you see yourself that I feel life missing in me? Tell me at least, how can one be without you? How can one live? Though I am ungrateful at so many graces, yet I love you as I offer you this most bitter pain of your absence to repair for my ingratitude. But come, have patience, Jesus. You are so good. Don't make me wait any longer. Come. Don't you yourself know what a cruel tyrant love is, that you don't have compassion on me? While I was in this state, so sorrowful, Jesus came and all compassion told me, I have come now. Do not cry any more. Come to me. In one instant, I found myself outside of myself, together with him, and I looked at him, but with such fear that I might lose him again, that tears would pour in large streams from my eyes. Jesus continued, no, do not cry any more. Take a look at how I am suffering. Look at my head. The thorns have penetrated so deep that they no longer show outside. Do you see how many gashes and blood cover my body? Come close to me, give me a refreshment. By occupying myself with the pains of Jesus, I forgot about my own a little bit, and so I started from his head. Oh, how harrowing it was to see those thorns so sunk in his flesh. One could not pull them out. While I was doing that, Jesus would lament, so great was the pain he suffered. After I pulled that crown of thorns off, all broken, I put it together again, and knowing that the greatest pleasure one can give Jesus is to suffer for him, I took it and I drove it onto my head. Then he had me kiss his wounds one by one. In some of them he wanted me to suckle the blood. I was trying to do everything he wanted, though in mute silence. The most holy Virgin came and told me, ask Jesus what he wants to make of you. I would not dare, but Mama encouraged me to do it. To make her content, I drew my lips near the ear of Jesus, and in a whisper I said to him, what do you want to make of me? And he answered, I want to make of you an object of my satisfactions. And in the very act of saying these words, he disappeared, and I found myself inside of myself. End of the reading. The 7th of April, 1901, Volume 4, she sees the resurrection of Jesus. Jesus speaks about obedience. As my adorable Jesus continues to deprive me of his absence, I feel a bitterness, and as though a knife was stuck in my heart, which gives me such pain as to make me cry and scream like a child. Truly, I seem to have become like a child who, when his mother departs from him, even for just a little, cries and screams so much as to turn the whole house upside down, and there is no other remedy to make him stop crying than for him to see himself in the arms of his mother again. So I am a true little girl in virtue, for if it were possible for me, I would turn heaven and earth upside down in order to find my highest and only good. And only when I found myself in possession of Jesus, then do I calm down. Poor little girl that I am. I still feel the swaddling clothes of infancy that clasp me. I am unable to walk by myself. I am very weak. I do not have the capacity of the adults who let themselves be guided by reason. So here is the highest necessity I have, to be with Jesus, right or wrong. I don't want to hear anything. What I want to hear is that I want Jesus. I hope that my Lord may want to forgive this poor little girl who sometimes commit some excesses. So finding myself in this position, I saw my adorable Jesus for a little in the act of his resurrection, his face so refulgent as to not be comparable to any other splendour. It seemed to me that the most holy humanity of our Lord, though it was living flesh, was so bright and transparent. One could see with clarity the divinity united to the humanity. Now, while I was seeing him so glorious, a light that came from him seemed to tell me, my humanity receives so much glory by means of perfect obedience, which, destroying the ancient nature completely, gave me back the new nature, glorious and immortal. In the same way, by means of obedience, the soul can form within her the perfect resurrection to virtues. For example, if the soul is afflicted, obedience will make her rise again to joy. If restless, obedience will make her rise again to peace. If tempted, obedience will administer to her the strongest chain with which to bind the enemy and will make her rise again victorious over diabolical snares. If she is besieged by passions and vices, by killing them, obedience will make her rise again to virtues. This to the soul, and in due time it will also form the resurrection of the body. After this, the light withdrew, Jesus disappeared, and I am left with such sorrow, seeing myself without him again, that I feel as if I had a burning fever that makes me fidget and rave. Ah, Lord, give me the strength to bear with you in these delays, for I feel faint. End of the reading. The 7th of April, 1903, Volume 5. Doubts of Louisa about her state of victim. After going through most bitter days because of the continuous privations of my adorable Jesus, this morning I felt I had reached the summit of affliction. Tired and exhausted in my strength, I was thinking that he really did not want me in this state anymore, and I almost decided to go out of it. While I was doing this, my lovable Jesus, moved in my interior, made himself heard, praying for me. I could only understand that he was imploring the power, the strength, and the providence of the Father for me, adding, don't you see, O Father, how she has greater need for help, as she wants to render herself a sinner by going out of our will after so many graces. You can say how I felt my heart split on hearing these words of Jesus. And he came out from within my interior. And after I made sure that it was blessed Jesus, I said, Lord, is it your will that I continue to remain in this state of victim? Because not feeling myself in the same position as before, I see myself as if the coming of the priest was no longer necessary. For if nothing else, I would spare the confessor the sacrifice. And he, for now it is not my will that you go out of it. As for the sacrifice of the priest, I will render back to him the charity he does, increased 100-fold. Then all afflicted, he added, my daughter, the socialists have plotted among themselves to strike the church. This they have done publicly in France, and in Italy in a more hidden way. And my justice is looking for voids, so as to lay hand to chastisement. End of the reading. The 7th of April, 1919, Volume 12. Effects of the Divine Will, Threats of Chastisement. Continuing in my usual state, my sweet Jesus came, all tired, in the act of asking for my help, and leaning his heart on mine, he made me feel his pains. Each pain I felt was capable of giving me death, but Jesus, sustaining me, gave me the strength not to die. Then looking at me, he told me, my daughter, patience. In certain days, your pains are necessary to me more than ever, so that the whole world may not be reduced to a plain. Therefore I want to make you suffer more. And with the lance which he had in his hand, he ripped my heart open. I suffered very much, but I felt happy, thinking that Jesus was sharing his pains with me and pouring himself out with me. He could spare the people the imminent and terrible chastisements that will burst out. Then, after some hours of intense pain, my lovable Jesus told me, "My beloved daughter, you suffer very much. Come then into my will to take refreshment, and let us pray together for poor humanity." I don't know how I found myself in the immensity of the divine volition, in the arms of Jesus, and I repeated after him all that he was saying in a low voice. I will give some idea of what he was saying because it is impossible for me to say everything. I remember that in the will of Jesus, I could see all of his thoughts, all the good he had done to us with his intelligence, and how all human intelligences received life from his mind. But oh, what abuse they did, how many offences. And I said, "Jesus, I multiply my thoughts in your will to give to each one of your thoughts the kiss of a divine thought, an adoration, a recognition of you, a reparation, a love of divine thoughts, as if another Jesus were doing it. This in the name of all and for all the human thoughts, past, present, and future, and I intend to compensate even for the intelligences of lost souls. I want that the glory on the part of the creatures be complete and that no one miss the roll call. And whatever they do not do, I do it in your will to give you divine and complete glory." Then, looking at me, Jesus was waiting as if he wanted a reparation to his eyes. And I said, "Jesus, I multiply myself in your gazes, so that I too may have as many gazes for as many times as you have looked at the creature with love. I multiply myself in your tears to cry, me too, for all the sins of the creatures, to be able to give you gazes of divine love and divine tears in the name of all, to give you complete glory and reparation for all the gazes of all creatures." Then Jesus wanted me to continue the reparations to everything, to his mouth, to his heart, to his desires, and so on, multiplying myself in his will, such that it would be too long to say everything. Therefore I moved forward. Then Jesus added, "My daughter, as you did your acts in my will, many sons were being formed between heaven and earth, and I look at the earth only through these sons. Otherwise, the earth would be so disgusting to me that I would not be able to look at it. But the earth receives little of these sons, because the darkness that creatures spread is such that it places itself in front of these sons, and they cannot receive all of their light nor their heat." Afterwards he transported me into the midst of creatures, but who can say what they were doing? I will just say that my Jesus with sorrowful tone added, "What disorder in the world! But this disorder is because of the leaders, both civilian and ecclesiastical. Their self-interested and corrupted lives did not have the strength to correct their subjects, so they closed their eyes to the evils of the members, since they already showed their own evils. And if they did, it was all in a superficial way, because, not having the life of that good within themselves, how could they infuse it in others? How many times these perverted leaders have put the evil before the good, to the extent that the few good have been shaken by this behaviour of the leaders. Therefore, I will have the leaders struck in a special way. And I, Jesus, spare the leaders of the church. They are already few. If you strike them, the rulers will be missing." And Jesus, "Don't you remember that I founded my church with 12 apostles? In the same way, those few who will remain will be enough to reform the world. The enemy is already at their doors. Revolutions are already in the field. Nations will swim in blood and their leaders will be scattered. Pray, pray and suffer. so that the enemy may not have the freedom to reduce anything to ruin. End of the reading. The 7th of April, 1929, volume 26, Kisses to the Sun, exit into the garden, contest between wind and sun, feast of the whole creation, clashing note and note of accord, the new Eve. My poor mind is always back into the centre of the divine volition. I feel I cannot do without crossing its endless sea and diving ever more deeply into it, so as to see, hear, and touch nothing but divine will. Oh, adorable will, raise your gigantic waves up into the celestial regions and transport the little exiled one, your newborn, from your will on earth up into your will in heaven. Oh, please, have pity on my littleness and fulfill over me your last act on earth, so as to resume your continuous act in heaven. So I write only to obey and to my great repugnance. After 40 years and more without going out into the open air, today they wanted to take me out into the garden on a wheelchair. Now, as I went, I found myself with the sun investing me with its rays, as if it wanted to give me its first greeting and its kiss of light. I wanted to give it tit for tat by giving it my kiss, and I prayed the little girls and the sisters who were accompanying me to all give their kiss to the sun, kissing in it that divine will that, like queen, was veiled with light. All of them kissed it. Now, who can say my emotion after so many years and finding myself in front of that sun that my lovable Jesus had used in order to give me so many similes and images of his adorable will? I felt invested not only by its light, but also by its heat. And the wind, wanting to compete with the sun, kissed me with its light breeze in order to refresh the hot kisses that the sun was giving me. So I felt like they would never stop kissing me. The sun on one hand and the wind on the other. Oh, how vividly I could feel the touch, the life, the breath, the air, the love of the divine fiat in the sun and in the wind. I could touch with my own hand how created things are veiled that hide the volition that created them. Now, while I was under the empire of the sun, of the wind, of the vastness of the azure heavens, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior in a sensible way, as if he did not want to be outdone by the sun, by the wind, by the heavens. And he told me, beloved daughter of my volition, today everyone makes feast because of your exit. The whole celestial court felt the gaiety of the sun, the joy of the winds, the smile of the heavens, and all ran to see what was new. And in seeing you invested by the light of the sun that was kissing you, the wind caressing you, the heavens smiling at you, they all comprehended that the power of my divine fiat was moving the elements to celebrate its little newborn. Therefore, the whole celestial court, uniting with all creation, not only makes feast, but feels the new joys and happinesses that my divine will gives it because of your exit. And I, being spectator of all this, not only make peace within you, but I do not regret having created the heavens, the sun, and all creation. On the contrary, I feel happier because it is enjoyed by my little daughter. The joys, the contentments, the glory of when everything was created are repeated for me when Adam innocent had not yet made the note of sorrow of his rebellious will resound in the whole creation that broke the gaiety, the happiness, the sweet smile that my divine will had in the sun, in the wind, in the starry heavens to be given to creatures. In fact, my daughter, by not doing my divine will, man put his clashing note in our work of creation. Therefore, he lost the accord with all created things, and we feel the sorrow and the dishonour that there is a string out of tune in our work that does not produce a beautiful sound. And this sound out of tune moves away from the earth, the kisses, the joys, the smiles that my divine will contains in the creation. Therefore, one who does my will and lives in it is the note of accord with all. Her sound contains a note, not of sorrow, but of joy and of happiness, and is so harmonious that all perceive, even the very elements, that there is the note of my will in the creature. And as though putting everything aside, they want to enjoy she who possesses that will by which they are all animated and preserved. Jesus kept silent, and I said to him, My love, you have told me many times that one who lives in your divine will is a sister to all created things. I want to see whether my sister light recognizes me, and do you know how? If in looking at it, it does not dazzle my sight. And Jesus, certainly it will recognize you. Try and you will see. I looked straight into the center of the sphere of the sun, and the light seemed to caress my pupil, but without dazzling me. In such a way, I was able to look into its center, at its great sea of light. How clear and beautiful it was. How true it is that it symbolizes the infinite, endless sea of light of the divine fiat. I said, Thank you, O Jesus, for letting me be recognized by my sister light. And Jesus resumed his speaking. My daughter, even from the breath, is one who lives in my will, recognized by all creation, because each created thing feels in that creature the power of the fiat and the supremacy that God gave her over the whole creation. Look and listen, my daughter. In the beginning, when Adam and Eve were created, Eden was given to them as their dwelling, in which they were happy and holy. This garden is a simile of that Eden, though it is not as beautiful and flowery. Now know that I have permitted your coming to this house that is surrounded by a garden for you to be the new Eve, not Eve the tempter, who deserved to be put out of the happy garden, but Eve the reformer and the restorer, who will call again the kingdom of my divine will upon earth. Ah, yes, you will be the seed, the cement on the woodworm that the human will has. You will be the beginning of a new happy era. And this is why I centralize in you the joy, the goods, the happiness of the beginning of creation. And I love to repeat the conversations, the lessons, the instructions I would have given if man had not withdrawn from our divine will. Therefore, be attentive and let your flight in it be continuous. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.